Home is where connections are made, memories are formed, and ideas are born. And no one knows home better than NFM. Thanks for tuning in to I Am Home, the podcast that goes deeper than trends and dives into what it means to make your house a home.
Tyler Weiskup here from NFM HQ with our storytelling Surgeon General, Becca Sudbeck.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Tyler.
I'm Becca. And of course, we've got Hilary Waltemath, our Visual Display General Manager.
Hey.
Hi, Hilary. And with us as well as Renee Quevedo, our brand strategist.
Hello.
Hi, Renee. And today we have another episode in our home improvement series. We're talking flooring with NFM's Director of Flooring, Dave Chambers. Hi, Dave.
How we doing?
I'm doing really well. Better that you're here because we're excited to talk a little bit about everything flooring. We're sharing kind of the questions, steps that you need to ask to select the ideal flooring for you, dear listener. But before we get to that, let me tell you why we're even doing this podcast, and that's because NFM is more than just your everything home store. We're in the business of improving lifestyles because your home life should be your best life. Learn more at nfm.com. And Dave, again, thank you for being here.
I'm thrilled to be here, actually. I'm first time, and I'm excited to share whatever I can.
Yeah, first time, long time listener, we're assuming.
Of course.
Yeah, yes. Okay, great. Well, Mr. Chambers, let me introduce you to the audience in case people don't know you. You're a 20-plus year NFM employee who currently serves as our Director of Flooring and has for 7 years.
Wow. That's correct.
I know, it's crazy. 7 years. You said,
You
wow.
getting the itch?
Yeah.
You getting the itch? Try something new?
No, I mean, once you get into flooring, you really can never get out anymore.
There it
So we'll
is.
talk about
Sound
that.
is groove,
Full
I
endorsement on
think.
flooring right here.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, you've also done furniture general sales manager, returns and allowances. You're a flooring sales manager and a specialist. Oh my gosh, I'm just flubbing all my words today. I'm so nervous to have you on the podcast. That must be what it is. I believe that you enjoy midnight walks on the beach and long drives up the coast of Maine.
And
Is
smooth
that
jazz.
smooth jazz? Okay, well, I wonder if we can start by, I don't know, your interest. We were talking about your son going to a Valentine's Day party.
Yeah,
here.
I've got that school party right after
yeah.
this, so I'm excited to be able to
that's
get and share that
as
with
much like personal information that I have about you. But I hope that at some point that maybe we can get more. You know, I think it would be great to add to the context of your full and expansive bio.
That only makes sense. I think we need to make that happen.
Okay, well, Dave, thanks again for being here. Let's move on to the topic of the day. We're talking flooring step by step. And so we kind of alluded to this in your intro, but I'm curious about how you got your start in flooring.
Yeah, believe me, it wasn't my first choice, honestly, but now I wouldn't want it any other way. So I applied to actually be an electronics salesperson when I first applied at NFM.
Okay.
I hated the job I had where I was, and I was like, I got to find something else to do. And I was also a very unique person in the city of Omaha that I had never set foot in NFM until the day I applied.
Wow.
Yeah, I just went on record with that. But Ron and Herb both know that, just so you know. But yeah, no, I applied and they called me in for an interview, and I was like, great. And so we get in for the interview, and they're like, well, we're not going to interview for electronics. We're actually going to interview for a carpet sales position. And I was like, what?
Ooh.
Really? Like electronics, carpet,
Yeah.
two different things. But I graciously took the job once it was offered to me, and the rest is pretty much history. So that was my step in, and it is a very exciting industry to be in. It might not seem that way. I always joke that I'm trying to bring sexy back to flooring because it just doesn't get the love, right, that it should. But you can't have anything without floors, right? You can't have furniture on it
And it
without
makes
floors.
a huge difference, too.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly.
Sets the tone.
Yeah.
Cooler, warm,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
comfier.
And there's
I can only remember you in that Superman suit.
Oh boy, yeah, Rad Project Leader.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I was Rad Man.
No
yes,
kidding.
Radman.
Rad Man. I did that
my.
company strategy for a couple years. Yeah, now we're going off topic, but it's a fun
Sorry,
story.
that's
So
what I
when I
remember
got
you
the
as.
job, I had to present in the manager meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and I was told like, listen, it's your first presentation. You have to do something crazy. Like
Yeah.
they got to remember you. And I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. So I came
Is
up
that
with this.
true?
Yeah.
You have
This
to-
is true.
Oh, no, I don't
Used
know
to.
that. I don't
Not
think
anymore.
I was like,
true.
is that the
Yeah, not
threshold?
anymore.
Oh my.
So I came up with an entire skit about the evil Mr. Returns and how he's stealing NFM's profitability and customer loyalty, and it all played out. And There may have
That's
been
incredible.
spandex, and
I mean,
it was
listen, it was memorable. I still
Right,
remember it.
see?
Yeah.
Bad man.
This is-
We're
I
talking
mean,
about
I've been
it.
through a lot of those manager meetings, and that's
Right.
when I
What,
remember.
like 8-9 years later, we're talking about this. I mean,
at least.
Yeah,
At
like I
least.
feel like it might even be more than that.
It might
Really?
be over 10 years.
yeah. Well, you've made an
Yeah.
impact.
There you
and
go.
speaking of impacts, the impact that you've made on flooring has been incredible. So I wanted to talk today about, the flooring process step by step, and I kind of split this up into two sections. The first being kind of selection, and I feel like one of the first things that customers probably start to think about when looking at flooring as a home improvement project is budget. So how important is it for customers to determine their budget before exploring flooring options?
It's exceptionally important. I'll tell you, I don't know that enough consumers today actually spend enough time on that. And there's reasons why. Most consumers don't replace flooring that often,
Right.
once every 7 years, 10 years. Lots of things change in that time, and you don't really understand all the costs associated with it. There's a big misconception out there, like you're shopping for flooring online and you see the price of flooring, but that doesn't include install.
Yeah.
And so you may have a budget in mind because you're looking at the product, but depending on the product you're looking at, the install could actually cost more than the product.
Right.
And then you come in and you get your hopes crushed a little bit, right?
Sticker
So
shock.
yeah,
Most
so
times
the
that's-
most research you
yeah.
can do is beneficial, and talking to an industry expert in the flooring department is a great way to start because they'll tell you how much you're going to spend both on product and on install as well.
Yeah, and I think when you're shopping, you see like the price you're presented with seems pretty low, like $2 and
something a
something a
square
square
foot,
foot.
right.
You're like, yeah, and you don't realize like
How many
how many square feet you actually have either.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of nuances with that, like the scope of your project. Do you want us to move your furniture for you? Do you
Yep.
want us to take out the existing floor? Like
Yeah.
all these things can add up, and you don't realize it when you're excited about, hey, let's go. We're going to put some new floor in the house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that it's really a remodel project happening in your home.
Yeah, I
Right.
remember being absolutely concerned for our budget when they were talking to us about doing the stairs. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's just the same, it's essentially doing the same thing. And then they were like, well, no, you've got the spindles. So we got to cut around every single one of your spindles. And I was like, oh, and that price was.
Got to cut around the spindles. You have pie stairs, floating stairs.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes involved into the
Yeah.
labor side of
Yeah.
it.
So overall, just like having a better idea of your budget, super important, and understanding that like there's the cost of the product, and there's the cost of the installation, all these extra add-on things that
Absolutely.
you may have to kind of consider if you want, like you said, moving of the furniture. Renee bringing up the idea of like cutting around stairs. There's a lot of like those little odds and ends that are just important to consider in your overall budget.
Especially how you want it to look at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, perfect. Well, second question I have for you on the selection side of things is how does the function of a space impact the choice of the flooring material that you'd be looking at?
It's really important. Actually, if you go out onto our website, we have a wonderful tool out there for you. It's a guided selling tool that's going to ask you questions about the function of your room, where you're putting the product, how much do you use the room, traffic, are you hosting in the room? Because that's going to play into your decision making about what type of products you should put in there.
Right.
And how are they going to perform, and how long are they going to continue to look beautiful, right? So that is exceptionally important. And if you come into the store, you're going to get those same questions from one of our professionals. They're going to ask you about your space, what happens in the space, how many people are in the home, kids, pets. That way they can help guide you to the right product that's going to last the longest for you and stay looking better longer.
Because you can have an idea in your head what you want a room to look like, and kind of maybe flood out some. You're looking on Pinterest or you're looking on a website, and you're like, oh look, oh my gosh, all those things look pretty, and I don't know, maybe you're looking at spruce hardwood floor, and you're like, oh great, but like if you walk on that and like the wear and tear and like if that stuff can actually hold up to the service of the room that you're putting it in, I think that is really something to consider, and having somebody walk you through that process is super helpful.
Absolutely. And you're going to find with products today, you can get the look you want in a lot of different construction
Yeah.
platforms that will be able to manage whatever function the space is for.
Huge. Yeah, because one time when we were putting for our floors in the first time, I picked out one that was like a walnut, and apparently that's really soft, and that wasn't gonna work for having a bunch of little kids around. So we found something that looked similar but wasn't a walnut.
Yeah.
Yep.
like it was.
Well, they even
harder
have
than
like
that.
wood grain tile almost.
Yeah,
Yep, they do.
yeah,
So even if
We
you're looking for
use that in the
wood.
store. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and so durable.
right.
And the thing of like you buying that online, making that decision, and like spending however much money, and then trying to call somebody to come in and have them install it, and then you get it down, and then like a couple years later, it's not
Yep.
holding up. I mean, that's the beauty of being able to kind of like walk through
Absolutely.
the idea of like, what am I going to use this for? What about moisture? I feel like that's a concern, and I don't know that it's something that everyone thinks about when they're looking at flooring.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the days when people used to put carpet in their kitchens and in their bathrooms, right?
Yeah.
You don't find that much happening anymore today, but because you have to look at that application. Like if it's going to be in a wet area, you have products that are designed to go in that space and perform and function the way that it's intended to. Where there's other products that should never be put into that type of an application whatsoever. I also think there's a really big misunderstanding out there about waterproof flooring, right? That's the buzz, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's heard about waterproof flooring. Well, I'll go on record by saying waterproof probably doesn't mean what a lot of consumers think it means.
Well, tell us, Dave, what does waterproof mean?
Yeah, waterproof in general terms means the product itself won't absorb a certain amount of moisture. That doesn't mean you can have a flood in your basement and you're going to be able to let it dry out and it's going to look fine.
Yeah.
That's not what it means. It also doesn't mean that moisture won't come through the product and get to your subfloor.
Yeah.
The product itself may be waterproof, but you've got to ask more questions. There are products out there that do prevent water from soaking down through the joints and things like that. But there is a big misconception, especially around like the luxury vinyl plank and
Yes.
luxury vinyl tile. Just got to be careful. That's why you want to ask a sales professional about what does this mean for this product.
Yeah. Thinking of somebody that may have overwatered her plants a couple of times and the floor there has a different texture now.
You don't got one of those little catch-all plates?
Not enough
Does
catch-all.
now.
Yeah.
Now.
Only catches half.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not all.
Yep.
I mean, if you just think about science in general, okay, this is going to sound really like a riff, but everything has like porous quality to it because of all the atoms and the molecules. So you can't assume anything is, waterproof like that when it's subject matter.
The key point behind it, and really the sales pitch is like, if you were to have that happen, that Hilary just explained, or if you had a pet accident or something like that and you were able to get to it, you're not going to have any problem whatsoever. It's going to clean up super easy, not leave anything. It's not going to be a problem for your floor, right? But like I said, if you have a bathtub overflow, you're going to be replacing flooring. I don't care what you put in there, right? It's going to damage something.
That's a lot of water.
right.
Not a spill.
Makes sense. I think we learned a lot. So if you're lucky enough not to have thought about flooring for a little while, I feel like there's been a lot of updates in the technology. You've kind of alluded to this a little bit. What type of flooring materials are currently popular or have new technology that maybe you haven't heard of if you haven't had to buy flooring for, let's say, 10 years?
Yeah, hard surface is still the trend. I mean, a lot of people are moving away from carpet in majority of the home, and they're putting in a hard surface. And so there's been a lot of innovation around, like I said, that luxury vinyl plank and luxury vinyl tile. That was probably the biggest. There's some new stuff coming to the industry now where, because with those products, you can't get as realistic of a look of wood as real wood. So the manufacturers are really now trying to figure out how do we take small veneers of wood and use that for the visual, but then use the substrate of a luxury vinyl plank to get the benefits of both. And so that's some of the new product that's going to be coming out. You get much better visual. You get the waterproof story yet again, and it's going to perform better. So those are exciting things that are happening, but they continue to elevate the looks and the visuals all the time to try to get everything to look as close to real wood as possible. That's the hard surface goal, right? Either make it look as realistic to wood or stone and tile as you can make it.
Yeah.
If you're not going to buy wood or stone.
Right.
And so that's where a lot of the innovation's been coming in. On the carpet side, though, I've loved to see the transition that's happening in carpet. Even with maybe smaller jobs happening, customers are personalizing their carpet now.
Yeah, they're like
We're
just way more fun than they used to
Yes,
be.
Yeah.
I feel
yes,
like.
exactly. They're doing more with patterns.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're getting to add their own flair to the room.
Yeah.
And, like I said, the jobs are smaller, right? The rooms are smaller, but it's a much more fun experience to buy that than maybe just a textured plush that you're going to
Yeah.
put
Right.
throughout.
Right.
I've been seeing quite a few people put like a patterned runner on their stairs,
Yes.
just
I
like
agree.
down
Yeah.
down the center, and I think it was like a speckled doe or fawn
Yeah,
like
the
pattern
animal
on
print.
Oh,
stairs.
fun.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
like really cool. And I would imagine, I mean, there's some complexity to installing on stairs, I'm sure, but to your earlier point, Renee, about cutting around
Some of the cost.
spindles, or even like taking rug runners and kind of patching them together to be like a pattern that comes down the stairs. That's really beautiful, and I would think it would be like a relatively simple and expensive way to like add a little character or personality to your home too.
Yep. Stairs are big with pattern carpet, master bedrooms,
Yeah.
walk-in closets, the place that it's your space, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of do whatever you want in that space. You'll find the more elaborate patterns, because that's where people will personalize. The patterns that are happening still in like the basement family rooms or living rooms, or maybe a little more subdued patterns, but the patterns are still, I mean, they're a huge part of our business and continuing to grow.
I think part of the cool tech that's kind of come about that maybe you haven't got to touch on just yet is the install ease of like the locking
Yeah.
and like the floating side of the floor, where it's easy to kind of say you do have a spill or something like that. It's easy for you to take the LVT suction cup, pop out that piece, and pop it back in, you know?
You say easy, I'm going to say less difficult.
Okay, you're right. Then like physically cutting out the wood, though.
Right.
Well, because to replace the plank, you're probably still going to need a professional to help you with that, but
Yeah, that's fair.
but it's
But
possible.
still.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good segue into more of the installation side
Sure.
of things. So, what kind of factors should customers consider when deciding between maybe a DIY project or hiring a pro?
First and foremost is their skill set. I like to think I'm a handy person, and I've installed a lot of floor. I still don't install it as good as a professional that does it day in and day out. So I think that's like you have to understand what your skill set is, what tools you have.
Right.
There are a lot of tools out there that make installation much, much easier, but you have to have those tools. If you don't, you're usually trying to figure out how to make it work with a skill saw and a hammer and and some other things,
Those
right?
results look fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then I'll also say it has to do with the product. I will never try to install tile. It's
For the-
very
yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
Depending upon, are you going over concrete? Are you going over subfloor where you got to actually have a concrete board then added to it? Like
Yeah.
it just the amount of work that goes into tile labor is pretty extensive.
Your body's gonna hurt after that too. Like that's
Yeah.
Just the DIY project in general?
Yeah,
Or, okay.
yeah. My uncle had his own like tile business for a long time, and then it just eventually reached a point where he couldn't do it anymore because it's so physical, like back, knees, joint. Like it's a
Yeah,
very
there's no
physical
ergonomic way to
Yeah.
attack
No.
that.
physical
You
job.
actually just brought me back to the last time I installed floor, and that's why I said I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Thinking about your back
It's
ache.
rough on your body.
Yeah.
I mean, you're usually on your hands and knees
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
It's like the
putting in
expression,
floor.
just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Leave it
But
to
then
the
I also,
pros.
it goes to, what do you want it to look like at the end of the day, right? And do you want to just be able to walk in and say, oh, it's done, and look how beautiful
Yeah.
it looks?
Sometimes you
Yeah.
get what you pay for.
That's right. That's right.
And I think to your point too about like having the right tool, that just like if you don't have the right tool, just how much you're trying to like figure it out and trying to make it work, it adds to the amount of time and energy that you're putting into it, the pain that you're putting into your body, to your point, Hilary. So I feel like that's another great reason for, looking at having somebody help on the professional side.
I've seen a lot of DIY jobs, and they look good, right?
Sure.
You have the normal areas where DIYers struggle, and that's if you just have a simple square room, you're probably going to make it look pretty good.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody has just a simple square room, really. And so, like, when you have to start going around doorways or going around an island or doing this or that, that's where math hurts a lot of people.
Yeah.
Measuring, cutting, getting it perfect.
Are you taking aim at the United States education system right now?
Never would do that.
Okay.
Never would do that.
Well, and
but
even,
math
like,
is tough.
nothing's level. Like I look at
No.
our house and it was like part of it is original and is like very, very, very old. Part of it is new and just like things settle and move and nothing is level.
So that was going to be my last thing I brought up, that most DIYers don't realize how much prep needs to go into your subfloor to make the floor perform the way you want. They usually just rip something out and just lay new floor down, and then you walk around and you can hear hollow, you hear this, or it starts failing, and it's because you had really, like, you had dips in your floor or you had peak seams in your subfloor. Like, this is what the pros do. They go in there because they're putting their name on this thing, and they're going to warranty it, at least through NFM, for at least 2 years. Right? They're going to say this isn't going to fail from an installation standpoint. So they don't want it to fail. They're going to do everything they can to make sure that subfloor is ready to go so they can install the floor and have it perform. Most DIYers don't do that work.
I will say we just, like, this was maybe 2-3 weeks ago, had NFM install new floors in a house, and there was so many, like, there was different floors throughout the house, and so they were all different levels, like different heights, and I was like, man, what's taking them so long? But they definitely like prepped all the floors, and the end product is, they did such a great job. It looks so beautiful. So
Most of the time, the prep takes longer than the
it
install.
did.
It did.
I was like, I wanted to like go over there and see what it
No
looked
progress,
like.
no
progress. Like,
progress.
they haven't done anything. But at the end of it, they did such a really nice job. And I mean, it wasn't. Like I said, there was a lot of different things that they needed to do to make it look.
Yeah.
I imagine they've seen it all too.
Oh,
They've
yes.
seen every weird arrangement, failed DIY attempts
Curved
in
walls,
the past.
those are fun.
Yeah.
Oh God, love it.
My first house was like a DIY flip that
Yeah.
somebody did, and when we ended up replacing the flooring because it was terrible, like, and it wasn't just aesthetic; it was just because like it was like bad quality, and also just like was like we're talking about like the dips and the like all sorts of like problems with it, like staying locked in place, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was 100%. They spent all that time just on the prep, and it took a while, but it was worth it because like we were able to sell our house, and like and we were like, hey, look, this floor looks great, and it was just like it made such a huge impact.
Yep.
And it was great that like I could put a ball on the floor and it wouldn't like roll off to the side of the room. So all those kind of things. Okay. Are there any common mistakes? Like if you have somebody who would be looking at DIY during the installation process, we talked about like the size of the room. We talked about like, can we hit on some of those points just to kind of like emphasize where those issues kind of
First
pop up?
and foremost, floor prep. Like,
Yep.
if you're going to try your best to figure out how to make that floor as level as you can.
Right.
Regular like wood subfloor are easier. You can see where there's issues. You can bring a 6-foot level out and kind of see where the problems are and grind it down a little bit. I would spend some time on that. The next is definitely figuring out where to start is the key. And every product usually has a different idea for you on where you should start when the application is for the room and how you want it to end up. Because you can't just go to that corner and start laying floor. Because what happens if you get to the other side and you're left with a 1/2 inch piece? So like you got to
like a puzzle.
Math came back
Yeah.
out, right? You got to do all
Yeah.
this math to figure out. So that's typically some things that I see. Then probably the other big one is prepare for around like doorways and door jams. There's a tool out there that you can use to undercut so that you can slide your floor underneath the door casings.
Yeah.
I see too many DIYers just cut around it and then they put caulking in there, and they're like, it looks good enough. But that's not the way
Yeah,
you
if
want
you
it
want
to
that
look.
nice,
right?
clean, polished look. For
Yeah,
sure.
right. So, and I mean, those are all things that you can do. Where when it gets to concrete, it becomes much more challenging to prep that floor and have it ready. But I mean, follow the instructions. I mean, surprisingly, there's instructions in every one of those boxes.
Yeah.
Maybe not on tile, but on wood and LVP and LVT, those products and laminate, they all have instructions on exactly how to go. Watch videos. There's tons of videos out there of people that are doing it. They'll teach you some tricks of the trade and things like that.
I wonder if this is a good kind of, just in case people are still considering the DIY route, like, are there specific products that are a little bit more friendly to those kinds of jobs versus, like you're saying, the professional like tile being, at least in your mind, like
Yeah.
don't.
You got to know what
like-
you're doing if you're going to put tile in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you got to feel pretty good about yourself and your skill set
Yeah.
to put tile in. Anything locking and that's floating,
Yeah.
a DIY person can do it if they've got a general idea of handyman work and can make those things happen. There's definitely, like I said, things you can do to enhance the look of the floor as you're putting it down. Actual wood floor, like nailed down wood or glue down wood, a little more challenging. Most people don't have the right nail guns and things like that to put down a wood floor, so you're talking about renting tools and things like that. So a locking floating floor is by far the easiest option for a DIYer.
Cool. Okay. So walk us through on the other side. If a customer decides that they want an FM or a professional to help them install their flooring, what are we looking at for like the process of having that help on the installation?
Yeah, we got so many options for consumers to shop. It's great, right? You can go online to start your journey, and that's a great place. Most people like to start online to get a feel for what's out there, what are they seeing, things like that. From there, you can ask to have our mobile vans come out to your house. We have a mobile
Yeah.
showroom in 3 of our regions, and they'll bring the selection to you. And while they're there, they're going to measure your space. They'll be able to provide you totals, go over everything right there in your home. And that's a great service that we have.
Yeah.
If you do come to the store, you're going to get a similar experience, right? You're going to get a professional salesperson that's going to be able to answer all your questions, find out what your needs are, and guide you. We've got a lot of product, right? We're known for the greatest selection known to man of everything that we carry. And so we have a lot of flooring options, and you can get lost. That's what we're here to help you with, right? So they're going to help you find that. And it's as easy as setting up a measure. We'll send out a professional measure agent. It's going to come out, look at the scope of your project, collect all the information, bring that back, and then we finalize your order into a total, and we call you, and we just move forward. We install your new beautiful floor. It's not challenging. It's not scary, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be scary.
Yeah.
We try to make it easy.
Yeah, I love that. And I hit on the flooring mobile gallery a little bit as well. I mean, if sometimes there's some concern of like, oh, okay, I gotta go to the store, I gotta like pull the samples, and I gotta like see if it makes sense, and then somebody's gotta come out later, and I gotta do all this scheduling, and somebody's gotta be home, and like all that kind of stuff. Like the beauty of that flooring mobile gallery and just being able to like have somebody come.
Yeah.
Like open the truck, show you the different options, see it in your own lighting, have them measure in place, give you a estimate that day. Like takes out so many different steps involved with the process.
And we probably didn't even bring up probably the best thing that we have to help you with your experience. Because when you shop for flooring, what do you get? You get a little sample. Even if we bring them to your home, the
Right.
sample's still only going to be 2 foot by 2
Yeah.
foot maybe. How about you take a picture of your room and you drop your floor in it with your furniture and your walls and things like that? We have that capability not only on our website, but also in store with our RoomVote kiosks, where you can visualize your flooring in your space right now to help you see
So
how it's going to look.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, very helpful because I mean you want to have that idea
It's
of
an
what it's gonna
Absolutely.
be. I mean,
Yeah.
you're exactly. It's because it's an investment. You want to make sure that like it's going to fit the picture that you have in your mind. And sometimes
It always
you know?
blew my mind when I got into flooring 21 years ago, and I was selling carpet here in Omaha, and I would give a customer a little 6-inch by 6-inch
The
carpet
stamp.
square and say, "Here you go home and see how that's going to look," and they made a decision off of it.
Yeah.
I never understood how you're capable of doing that, and it still happens today, and it blows my
It's like the
mind.
paint swatch
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, right?
You know?
It is.
Yeah.
It's like I want to see it in my space. I want to see it with my wall color. I want to see everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm glad that we have that service, that ability for people to do that because it just makes it so much simpler to understand
Yeah.
what you're getting.
Be really confident in your decision that way.
That's it.
Yeah.
It gives the confidence back to the consumer that they're making a good decision about the color and style that they're putting in.
Yeah. Now, for installers, are there like specific certifications, qualifications that those? I know that NFM has, but like even if you're just like a consumer and you're curious, like what you should be looking for in the folks that are installing things in your home, like anything that you can
Sure.
provide on insights.
Well,
for
first
that.
and foremost, I would say come to NFM, right? We've
You
already
got
done all that work for you as a consumer. Like we will, they're background checked, and they have to have certain certifications. They have to show us their work. We go out and we visit their jobs, and you know, we're coaching and developing them as just like their employees to try and help them be better installers. But if you're going to find your own installer, I would absolutely ask for references. I would do a lot of searching online to see if there's any feedback out there. I would be asking for any certifications they may have. There are certifications for different products that are out there. You know, from the World Floor Covering Association, they can sign up and become certified in the installation techniques. I would try and find somebody that installs flooring every day of the week and doesn't do it as a side hobby, or doesn't do it and also does 12 other types of installations. Like, I would want to find a true flooring installer that's to do my
Jack
job.
of all trades, master of none.
Yes.
Versus your handy friend that you're like, oh, maybe they'll give me like a little bit of a discount, but then like they do it every once in a while, and they come over over the course of
Your
3
job
months.
Paint them
on
with
the
a 12
weekend.
pack and some snacks. That's
Pizza.
Yeah, it's a pizza. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna get what you pay for, right? And if
Always.
you want a true flooring professional, I mean, it is a professional trade.
It's a trade, yeah.
It is
There's
a trade.
craftsmanship to it.
And there are people that are really, really good at it, and then there are people that are really, really bad at it.
Yeah.
And you just got to be careful.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Any tips on like ensuring the longevity of flooring after it's installed?
Yeah, I would highly recommend to either, if you're buying it from like a sales professional, ask them, how do I maintain my floor? They'll be able to tell you. Every floor is a little bit different. All the floors that you buy should come with those instructions on how to maintain, what to use, what not to use. Like, you don't want to wet mop a wood floor, right? I mean, it just kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to put a mop down and put water all over a wood floor. It's probably not going to go well. But there's a lot of, you got to be careful what's out there from cleaning tools as well. You know,
Stripping your
there's
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. There's heat mop or steam mops and things like that. You got to be careful what products you use. I would become just familiar. You can also go to the manufacturer's website and they'll tell you exactly how to clean and care for your floor. Be careful of the vacuums you use on carpet. There are certain carpet vacuums that are more rough with a beater bar than others, and it can actually damage your carpet.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy, right? Like, I want that to get all the dirt and everything out there, but you're not thinking
Sure.
about it actually
So wanted
damaging
to
the
rip
fiber.
all the fibers out too.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, every manufacturer has a specific way to maintain your floor to ensure it's going to last the longest. Carpet probably has the most strict, just because that's generally where you're going to find a lot more of the stains and issues. And so, like, the worst thing you can do is just go get a household cleaner and just start going to town, because most of them will tell you not to use any cleaner and just use hot steam extraction on a stain to get it out. You put a cleaner on there. If you don't get all the cleaner out, it's just going to absorb more dirt. Things like that. Plus, you got to have your carpets professionally cleaned every 18 to 24 months to usually keep your warranties good. So there's a lot of things but if you're not buying them from a professional, you're not going to get told those things.
Right.
If you buy from a professional, they should be educating you on how to keep your floor looking better longer.
Yeah. Well, makes sense. Any final tips or advice for customers embarking on the journey of selecting new flooring?
You should start at Nebraska Furniture Mart. I think
good
that's
one.
just
Yeah.
an obvious, right?
That's a good one.
No,
Well said.
do go online and research, but also remember that not everything you see online is true. I'm not a big fan of buying flooring online. I think you've got to see it, you've got to touch it, you got to get it in your home. So start online, but then go to a brick and mortar store and actually ask questions to make sure what you're buying is fitting the application you're looking for. That would be my biggest suggestion.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being here, Dave. Appreciate it.
This was fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to have you.
I think we just brought sexy back to flooring.
I think
think
so.
I think it's happening
Yeah.
right in front of us.
Started a revolution here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So thanks again for being here, talking home improvement, our flooring kind of step-by-step episode. And I want to thank, of course, you, Dave, and Renee, and Hilary, and Becca, and our producer, Scott, and to all of you, dear listeners, for being out there and supporting us. Check out nfm.com for more home improvement products and services. And until next time, remember, home is what you make it.
Thanks for joining us today for I Am Home with Tyler Weisskopf, Hilary Woltemath, and Becca Sudbeck. No one knows home quite like NFM. So if you'd like more information on home design at NFM, please check out nfm.com and leave us a review on the podcast platform of your choice.